armchair commanders, we call the shots. From our living room thrones where the action's hot. We're the generals of fiction, the masters of war. In silver screen battles with buttered popcorn. Armchair commanders, armchair commanders.
Persepolis, which is about the Iranian Revolution. Mm-hmm. And, granted, my kid is not of talking age yet, still kind of potatoes around. But there was a point in the movie that I just found hilarious where there's like this little girl chanting, "Down with the Shah, down with the Shah." And I can't stop saying that around the house. And I feel like my wife is going to be very upset if her first words are "down with the Shah." So,
I mean, she's not wrong.
Yeah. So your kid chanting Zuov, way better.
I mean, it's not like they picked it up on their own. When you continually say to them, give me a Zuov, they eventually, that kind of torture is going to take its toll. They're just going to repeat the shit their captors say.
Just Stockholm Syndrome.
It's exactly what it is. I mean, I've
Alrighty.
got Abraham Lincoln or a Zuov in one corner of this house or another. So, it's like propaganda, but I guess it's okay propaganda at this juncture.
Who would have ever thought the words "okay propaganda" would welcome to the Armchair Commanders podcast. My name is John, and today we are joined once again by friend of the show and fellow podcaster Adam. Adam, if you'd like to say hello and tell folks a little bit about yourself.
Hey everybody, Adam Kroll over here, one of the hosts of the Civil Weird podcast, where we talk about some of the weirder aspects of the Civil War and history. Myself, my co-host Chris, Paul, and our producer extraordinaire Doc. But yeah, and also in my daily life, I'm a public historian and interpretive guide at Lincoln sites here in Springfield, Illinois.
But we are not here to discuss the Civil War today. I don't know if I was having like a mini stroke or what was going on. If you're having like a crisis of faith in the Civil War or something, but we're not here to discuss the blue and the gray.
No. Well, I mean, I can pretty much tie anything to the Civil War. So it was when the Edmund Fitzgerald's anniversary came up. I figured out a way to tie the Fitz to the Civil War, and it was General Meade was in the Army Corps of Engineers, and he helped plot Duluth Harbor and Superior Harbor, and the Edmund Fitz left Duluth Harbor to go across to make Whitefish Bay. So boom, there you go. There's your fucking Civil War.
It's his fault. I must have missed that verse in the song.
Yeah, it's bogus. Hey, if you look at it this way, Gordon Lightfoot wrote The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, and George Gordon Meade was the guy who plotted Duluth Harbor for them to leave there. It's all it's all that Lincoln Kennedy.
That was a little
bullshit.
more of a stretch, but we'll take it.
Oh, that's all right.
So today we're doing Harlan County War. Something we are kind of staying on theme with is whenever we have you or your compatriots with us, it seems like we have a pretty strong track record of doing made-for-TV movies. So why the diversion from Civil War to a 1970s labor strike?
I don't know. I just think it's kind of apropos to what is occurring right now in our own modern world with our our ascendancy of AI and us being around for that, and it trying to replace as many people as possible.
They took our jobs.
You're doing our jobs. Best episode. Well, I won't say best. That's a hard compete, but still,
All
I
right,
just thought,
everybody, back to the pile.
yeah. Everybody back to the file. Oh shit! But I had just run across something. It was a news article about a gentleman who is very well represented in this film. And while he has a different name and he's kind of a composite character in this film, his real name was Basil Collins, and his full name, and if you really want to get technical, Staff Sergeant Noble Basil Collins, who was in the United States Army, survived the Bataan Death March, 3 years of Japanese captivity, and then came back to the United States to be a Union buster. So, for a guy who relied on solidarity in a Japanese prison camp to stay alive with his comrades, whatever, whoever buttered his bread when he got back here to the States and to Harlan County, Kentucky, um, he decided to go that route. But I read an article about them naming a section of highway in Harlan County after him, and the article in no way, shape, or form mentioned him in the 1970s and his, I mean, murder. He murdered a man in Harlan County in the
That was missing from the
documentary.
movie.
Oh yeah, well, and
Well,
that's
I
the
mean, there
thing is
was
that
there was murder in the movie, but he wasn't the one doing it.
that's the guy. That's the I can't remember. It starts with a G, I believe, but that guy in the film, he's Basil Collins, and that's essentially what happens is that he kills one of the strikers, and that brings both parties to the table. So it takes a man to lose his life on that picket line in order for both parties to kind of see a better, and I mean that's bullshit too. I mean they weren't seeing a better way. The mine company was trying to stop liability. Let's be honest, and the strikers basically took a shittier deal than what they were fighting for. They got some of what they wanted, but they ended up not getting anywhere near what they should have gotten, especially for the dangerous conditions that they were working in. But as I said, it just what's going on right now in the United States with our, I'll just say, upheaval when it comes to labor, AI, politics. They're all kind of part and parcel. Our military, what's going on right now with that, our buildup in Iran, you know,
Down with the
everything it
Shaw.
seems when it comes to war, the military, labor, corporate interest, all of that is all seeming to come together, and in a very strange way, in a very strange set of files. I won't mention anyone by name and what they are, but in a very strange set of files that have recently come out, there's a lot of connections that we're putting together with things that we never knew.
Yeah, I was really surprised to see how involved the CIA was with JFK. That was something.
I mean,
Because that's what you're referencing, right?
kind of.
So we were joking on the last episode because Jack mentioned ICE. I was like, "Oh, great, we're going to get fucking deported now because you had to go and mention their name."
I know, and I have said the same thing essentially, but I figured if I'm not already on some rabble rouser list, and I haven't been doing my job for the past several years, so
Oh, what good are lists, anyways? We think about all the times that uh, think about like the fucking shoe bomber who tried like blowing up a plane. He was on a no-fly list, and yet somehow he made it onto an airplane. So,
Richard fucking Reed, the reason we all still have to take our goddamn shoes off at the airport.
so what good are lists, really?
I agree absolutely, but and it was that article. I read that, and that was the day that I sent that to you. I was like, wow. I go, and you can go back, of course, in what they call bloody Harlan County, through your Blair Mountain Battle of Blair Mountain, Matewan massacre, all of this labor unrest, as people like to call it, is so ingrained in that area of the United States that it's just insane the amount of uprisings that occurred in a very short period of time, and then they just stopped. It was after 1974 and the Brookside mine, um, I guess you would say, strike or uprising. That was it. That was it. Once that kid got killed and they came to the table, the UMWA essentially bent the knee to the coal companies. And then after that, now in the United States, you have less than, I would say, less than a third of your coal mines that are left are unionized. And the ones that aren't are very dangerous places to be. And they always have been. And you're not going to get a coal company, or you're not going to get a boss to put in safety measures or take care of the workers until they're forced to do it. That's just track record. I've never seen a
But
mine operator in
but I
history ever
was
come forward
I
and say
was
we're going to do
told
this.
that coal was clean and beautiful. Why would we need safety measures?
And in the film, that's something that they show at the very beginning of the movie, where there's a mine explosion. You know, and that's what a lot of people don't understand about mining, especially coal mining, is that it is inherently explosive. You've got coal dust that can light. You have methane that if you hit a pocket of, it can just go. Um, how many? I read a statistic about the state of Illinois. Up until 1932, there were at least 1,500 miners getting killed a year when they started tracking it in 1875. Until then, there had been 1,500 miners a year killed in the state of Illinois.
You know what's that's an insane number, but you know what's I like a weird fact or a little factoid that I always blew my mind that's directly related to like mine safety and like workers' rights when it comes to mining specifically is have you ever heard of the Cripple Creek mine?
Yeah.
So here in Colorado, very famous mining town, big. It's still you can tour it today. It's obviously not functional, but it was an 1800s mine. Um,
Is it a
and
silver mine?
yeah,
Okay.
silver mining was our big deal back in the 1870s, 80s, 90s. Um, and Teddy Roosevelt, pre like he was into his political career, but pre presidency, so still kind of doing his thing. Um, actually visited the Cripple Creek mine here in Colorado, and there was a couple of mules that were like way deep down in the mines because they use them to haul the ore carts back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And so he asked the foreman or whatever, whoever was in charge at the time, he's like, how do you get the donkeys out like in between shifts? And they're like, what do you mean get them out? And that really pissed Teddy Roosevelt off. And he went on this fucking like one man mission, like basically like he was trying to get these rights for these mining donkeys, like almost like he was a member of PETA. And
Give a fuck about the miners.
oh yeah, fuck the miners. But you're damn skippy that Teddy Roosevelt got those donkeys fucking 10 hours of sunlight every day.
Oh shit, that is awesome. Like there's probably some 8-year-old kid down there leading those fucking donkeys around. They're like, yeah, what about me? What about you?
Please, sir, can I have some sunlight? Fuck you.
Okay, nah, get back to work, boy. You've got another 6 hours in your 18-hour shift.
So yeah,
12 hours.
there was a point in our nation's history where donkeys had more labor rights than humans did in mines. So
Absolutely, and they would tell you that point blank. They would say, "Don't you keep those donkeys in a spot or keep those mules in a spot where there's going to be a cave in or there's going to be a slate drop, because if those mules get killed, it's your ass." and you'll be working down here to pay for them for the rest of your life. And they would literally say, what about me? And I'm like, well, what about you? It costs money to train those mules. You, on the other hand, we can replace you with some bohunk that just came
Like
over here
I
15
handed you a
seconds
shovel.
ago.
Shut up.
Yeah, here you go. How do you think my Slavic family got here? They came from the mines in Slovenia and Poland right to the mines in northern Minnesota. So they just went from cold to super fucking cold. They traded cold for colder, and they salt mines and like I have iron mines in Slovenia, but then they instead of coal mines. So you know, six and one half dozen the other gives a shit.
I will say, so like, the movie is called the Harlan County War, and this conflict, it does become violent. There is death with it. This is very much kind of, this is going on the outer edges of usually what we would consider a war movie. There's obviously no like Saving Private Ryan or anything, but
Holy shit, they put a whole new spin on this film.
but I was starting to get a little worried towards the end. I was like, there's only like 20 minutes in this film left, and I haven't seen. All I've seen is picket lines and arguing. Like,
Yeah.
when does the war start? Like, it's in the name of the movie. And then about 2 minutes later, we get our montage of like shootings and
Your arc.
fucking throwing
Dynamite
dynamite
bombings and
sticks into
shit.
cars and all
Yeah.
this shit. And I was like, there it is.
And I will say this, like, now, granted, it is a Showtime made for TV movie that came out in 2000. So, holy shit, 26 years ago. It's fucking unreal. But it was made for that purpose. And they had such a good cast in it. You know what I mean? Holly Hunter, Stellan Skarsgård, what's his name?
My favorite Skarsgård, by the way.
What's that?
I said that's my favorite Skarsgård, by the way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You got to have a favorite Skarsgård, and you got to have a favorite Hemsworth. Which one's your favorite Hemsworth? The one they made in the lab. They made them all in a goddamn lab.
I like whichever one was Thor.
I couldn't fucking tell you. I could not tell you. I know there's like
I don't know, the
three or four of
Hemsworth
them.
that was in the Hunger Games kind of just pissed me off. So
Right? Yeah, yeah. But as I said, in I believe his name is it Tom Levine? He's
Ted
the one who
Levine.
plays Holly Hunter's
Buffalo Bill.
Exactly.
Was she some big fat chick?
Jeremy Gum.
How do you go from Oscar winning Silence of the Lambs to this? Not saying that this is a bad film, but
I agree.
It's not on the same plane.
Well, you have to remember that he gets typecast as a creep for several films after this, and TV shows, stuff like that, because he's Buffalo Bob, and he's got that voice. Talks like Carl like this, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that, I mean, when people know that voice and people hear you saying, "Would you fuck me?" because I'd fuck me in that voice.
Well, here's the thing. I am young enough, and my parents were smart enough that my introduction to Mr. Levine was the TV show Monk. So
I forgot he was on that show.
I just knew him as a detective.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was like, I think I saw Silence of the Lamb for the first time when I was like 10 or 11, which is still way too early to be watching that movie. Then I was like,
Yeah, it's a shocker, and
we need Tony Shalhoub to figure out the murderer.
yeah, and then you figure out that, and then you see him in other stuff, but you always remember him as certain characters. So, when he first started to go into kind of a hero arc, if you will, or playing kind of character actors, where he became he's that guy. Hey, it's that guy. You know what I mean? He was in the movie Heat, and he played one of Al Pacino's cop crew. And as a matter of fact, he's the first dude to die in the shootout downtown in the movie Heat. He's the guy who comes out of cover behind the car and gets zapped. They hit him above his vest. But he goes from being Buffalo Bob to that to the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. He's the dude who's a dick to Bob Ford. Walks into the store, throws peanuts at him and shit. If you've ever seen that film, but he's great in it. You know what I mean? He plays the character very, very well, and he does this one too. My problem with this movie and this cast, to get back to that, is that they could have done so much more with them, and truly made this a movie about the violence surrounding that time at the Brookside Mine. And they cram all of that into the last, like you said, the last 20 minutes of the goddamn movie. And it's like, you could spread this out. There was all kinds of shit that was going on around there, people getting shot up and stuff like that. And that, you're right,
Well,
all of it in the last 20 minutes.
the other thing too is that like I was really confused because when I initially did like my research, because I'll do a little bit of reading before a film, just so I'm not too terribly lost if I'm watching something I know jack shit about, which I did not know jack shit about this particular issue. And so I was like, Harlan County War, Google it, and there's two of them, and the one that Google will give you is the one that happened in the 30s, where it was
Yes.
like
Bloody Harlan.
people like legit like people like shootouts like every other week, and like people taking baseball bats to each other and all this
It was a
stuff.
guerrilla war. I mean, it was a brutish fucking
And
guerrilla
I'm
war.
like, oh, this is going to be a dope fucking movie. And all of a sudden, I
I
see
know.
Helen Hunt gardening her 2 square foot cabbage patch, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
Victory Garden. I know, dude. And that's the thing is that there's Harlan County, USA documentary, which this movie is based off of, and that is an hour and almost a 2 hour documentary of what occurred, and it's more exciting than this film. To be honest with you, the
I
drama.
don't doubt it. We've done one documentary before, and it was like one of those dramatized, like 2/3 of it is like acting with an occasional narrator every now and again.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, cool, we'll do this because it's still kind of artistic storytelling. But I'm so hesitant to do documentaries just because even though they're very much in line with the subject matter, it's not really. I like to think of this as more of a pop culture kind of podcast.
Yeah,
So,
I feel you. Absolutely. And it's this movie, like I said, this movie has its really good points to it. And the implied I guess you would say the implied violence where they show, that montage of them in that bombing campaign and stuff like that. I just feel that, with the way they could have spread it and the music, that is from this, area that they don't use that much of, except for like that one, mountain kicking hoedown that they have where they're drinking moonshine. And
that or the like the sad twang for
yeah,
in between scenes.
constantly. that lonesome
Look
fiddle.
at how poor they are.
Oh shit. And see, that was the good thing, is that there's a couple of people that you can cast as a mountain an Appalachian woman, and Sissy Spacek, the OG, the coal miner's daughter, and Holly Hunter. Like, she is like, their accents are dead on, because they're both, well, Holly Hunter's from Georgia, but still, you know what I mean?
That was one of the things that I kind of had a little bit of a hang up with, and it's also I have a fun little game that I like to play just myself, which is I'll put whatever the week's episode movie is on the TV, and most of the time my wife will start the film or come in she'll either start the film with me or she'll just walk in at a random point, and then
Yeah.
I will start the stopwatch and see how long till she walks away. Um,
I should start doing this shit with my wife.
and so
That's
I'm
great.
watching this movie, and Helen Hunt's on the screen, and she's doing her southern drawl, talking to, I don't even remember what scene it was, but it took all of about 30 seconds. She's like, I can't watch a movie where it sounds like everybody's got peanut butter in their mouth, and she just walked away. And I'm like, God damn it! Now I'm going to be thinking about this the rest of the fucking movie. Like,
Yeah, I think right. You put somebody puts that implants that idea in your head, and you just can't get over it.
well,
I know what you mean.
it also confused me because, like, so my grandmother, she's from Kentucky, and she's very much the, like, she's got the like Southern Belle kind of accent going about it.
Yeah,
So for me, that was also one of the things that kind of threw me through the loop.
and yeah, and I know what you mean. But like the other day, a gentleman and his wife came in to the tomb as visitors, and the the older gentleman started talking, and I honestly I couldn't understand what he was saying at first until I kind of slowed down and started to really like hone in on his speech pattern. And when he stopped at a natural stopping point, I go, guys, are you from Eastern Kentucky? And he goes, yeah. How did you guess? And I said,
That's like, it's
well,
like the Cajuns down in Louisiana. Don't hold shit, jump off bomb.
it is. And when you're born and raised in that area, they have their own vernacular. And that Appalachian vernacular, until you slow down and really start to listen to what they're saying, it's almost as that scene in Gettysburg with the three Confederate soldiers where he says,
The rats.
yeah, you know what I mean? And that's just the way, and then you slow down and you can understand what he was talking about. And then of course we started talking about the unions. It was so weird because they were there for the Mother Jones dinner, which the Mother Jones dinner is a big union dinner for coal miners, and they come from West Virginia and Kentucky to here because Mother Jones is buried about 40 miles south of here in a little town called Mount Olive. She's buried with what she called her boys, 14 miners that were killed in what they called the Verdun Massacre. Uh, Horrible shit show in our own mine wars here. We had several outbreaks of massive violence around here. Uh, we didn't have as big a coal fields as West Virginia, but just as populous, you know what I mean, as far as miners coming here. But she was buried down there with these miners, and then in 1936, there is a drive-by shooting in Springfield, Illinois, on Easter Sunday, where a miner is killed, and he is the head of what's called the PMA or the PWA, or pardon me, Jesus Christ, the PMA, the Progressive Miners of America, and they were a splinter faction of the UMWA because they refused to take a contract that the UMWA was going to force on them, and they said, "Eat a bag of shit, we'll form our own union," and then they went to war literally with the UMWA. John L. Lewis, very famous leader, AFL-CIO, ran the UMWA from Springfield. He basically told the miners here in Springfield, take the contract, we'll pull your cards, take your union cards. And they said, okay, go ahead, because we're not in your goddamn union anyway, you bushy fucking eyebrow prick. And they formed their own union.
We don't need your hoity-toity.
Yeah. And if you've ever seen a picture of John L. Lewis, you see his eyebrows, you'll feel shit. But it looks like he's about to fly away. But he forces them to try to take, or makes them take this, and they say no. And then basically John L. Lewis, who is supposed to be this wonderful labor leader for 40 years, gets in collusion with the mine bosses. Not only gets in collusion with them to try to force their hand to bring in the National Guard, but goes and blows up a UMWA, their own paper in Taylorville to blame the PMA for it so they could bring in the guard. All this shit happened around here, and it's the same type of stuff that happened in Kentucky and West Virginia. And it's just on a different scale. So you had the mine operators in collusion with the UMWA. The UMWA forced these guys to come down off of Blair Mountain in 1921 because basically they said, well, they're going to bring in the army. And they're like, they already brought in the army and we beat them. So why are you forcing us to come down off of the mountain? We're winning this war. And because the unions were getting a black eye and the guys who were running the union at that time were losing money. And they lost that fight. And it crippled the unions for the next, well, they still are. They're crippled because of what they did. And so, with all that said, this guy comes here from West Virginia with his wife to go to this dinner every fucking year because that's how important she is to American, not just coal miners, but miners in general. And so it was just weird that we had planned this and then they came in. I got into an hour conversation with them about mining and labor and all that kind of shit. Shitting on Don Blankenship. Listeners out there, go ahead and look that piece of shit up. Spend an afternoon hating him.
Meanwhile, the other people in the crowd are like, can I hear a fact about Abraham Lincoln?
Yeah. I'll give you one. His favorite food was apples.
Yeah, didn't he eat them like a fucking weirdo?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And his favorite drink was black coffee. Loved black coffee.
For our listeners at home, when I say he ate them like a fucking weirdo, he ate them, I don't even know how to describe it, like from like the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And ate the whole thing. Like like you know how you eat from the side around the core? No. Like,
and you wonder why Edwin Stanton called him the fucking Illinois ape. Dude was a barbarian.
It's a good thing that there wasn't like
trod.
It's a good thing there wasn't like CNN or Fox back then, because that would be the only thing they would talk about. Be like, can you see how the president of the United States is eating his apple?
Yeah. Look at this asshole. What a goon. Meanwhile, they're justifying some other bullshit behavior in the next breath. Oh, yeah. But, you know, to kind of get back to the film, that whole thing about, like you said, the them bringing you to the 30s fight and what happened there, and they don't really, you know, they kind of brush over.
Well, Helen Hunt, her character's mom, is at the like mine workers boosters club, which I love that. Like the mining union has a boosters club. And she's like, well, my daddy was in the original Harlan strike back in the 30s. And that's really all the more they mention about it in the film.
And it's bullshit because who she's kind of portrayed, or being who she is portraying, is Florence Reese. And Florence Reese was the wonderful lady who had a father who was killed in the mines, a husband who was a union organizer, rank and file miner, and then died of black lung. But she, during it was 1912, and of course another massive labor unrest was going on, and she wrote the song "Which Side Are You On?" And for whatever unknown reason, they don't mention her and they don't mention that song in that movie. I don't get it. That is it's the classic labor song that was written about basically saying, hey, you piece of shit, there ain't no neutrals in Harlan County. You'll either be a union man or a thug for J.H. Blair. And they don't even mention her.
No, instead we get, we're going to stand in line to the tune of My Little Light of Mine.
Which, yes, they did sing, but I mean, literally, that Florence Reese in that movie, or in the documentary, Harlan County, USA, she's in it, and she explains, she was living in Knoxville at the time, and she came up for that strike, and basically she was all for them. She's, don't give up, don't quit, tell these bosses, where to stick it. And they did, but that's just amazing. I don't know what the hell was the reason you couldn't mention her or use the music that was around at the time, because I mean, Black Lung, that song has been around for 120 years now, and they don't even use it. It's just, especially when a big part of the movie is about her dad dying of black lung. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Well, and it's like I already know what song I'm going to have for when I do the post for this episode. Is going to be Tennessee Ernie Ford's was it fucking I always forget the actual name of the song, but it's the song he does about the company town.
Hmm.
Is it 20 tons?
16 tons.
There we go.
Yeah.
I'm not good at math, okay?
Hey, I got a history degree for a reason.
I have one too, and this is about the most I do with it. So
I still remember when they were like, "You're gonna have to take a statistics class for a history major," and I'm like, "Fucking why?"
I remember, so I didn't start off as a history major. I started off as a criminal justice major and an addiction studies minor.
Mhm.
And then I became a history major. But by the time I had made the switch, I had already, how they're called different things at different schools, your capstone or your thesis or
Yeah.
whatever.
Right.
At my schools, you had to do what was called a air quotes writing intensive course.
Mhm.
So big paper class. So I did American Sign Language as my writing intensive class because that makes sense. Um,
I always think about it. All right.
because I was like, this is going to be because in my dumb brain, I'm like, it's a sign language class. Like, how intensive can an intensive paper in a sign language class be? Like, that's not the
Right.
point of the class. It's
What am I going to be writing?
so I'm like, this will be easy. So I did that. It wasn't easy. And then they did like a catalog change, and so um criminal justice then required like you had to have a criminal justice, like before it was like just take intensive writing class.
Mm-hmm.
Then it became, no, you need a program specific writing intensive writing class. And I was like, motherfucker. So I did it, and then I made the switch to my history degree, and I go to the program director and I'm like, hey, I know that you have to do a big ass paper for history because of the intensive writing requirement. Can I not? I have already done 2 intensive writing classes. So it's essentially 2 capstone papers in my college
Mm-hmm.
career at this point. And he's like, no,
No.
get typing. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's fucking do this again.
So that's how I ended up doing a capstone paper on discrimination within the uh, hard of hearing community against themselves, because
Mm-hmm.
apparently there's a big discrimination problem where like people who get like cochlear implants,
Oh, really? Really?
basically, yeah, so people who are hard of hearing or deaf,
Uh,
a lot of people in that community, if you go and get cochlear implants, they basically see it as like you're turning your back on your community, and like because they
oh,
don't see it
fuck.
as a disability. They're like, we are how we're supposed to be.
Right.
And so to get a cochlear implant is basically like this admission that like you see being deaf as wrong or faulty.
Mm-hmm.
So people who get that often get discriminated by other deaf individuals.
No shit.
So that was my first big paper, was exploring that kind of discrimination within a community.
Wow.
And
That's interesting as
then
well.
I did a massive paper about 9/11 for my criminal justice capstone,
Mm.
and then I did a my history capstone was the uh, Confederate, the impact of the Confederate Navy on the advancement of naval warfare technology. So,
Well, that's interesting too. Shit. Yeah. Those are all good. I mean, at least they didn't suck.
yeah, I got fucking tired of typing shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. That shit. Oh God. Yeah. It was only 2 years ago now that I got my master's, but it seems like it was yesterday that I was sitting in this very same basement with the lights off, like a fucking bridge troll, sitting here typing out, and then realizing after you're typing for 45 minutes that you've been typing the same goddamn thing for 45 minutes, just in different ways.
Do you feel jaded because you didn't have ChatGPT to help you cheat?
Ugh, God, dude. And that was the other thing is that, like, ChatGPT was there, but I had heard that basically professors already knew about it and they were going to fucking burn you. And if you got caught, you know what I mean? And so I
Yeah.
was like, well, I'll just go ahead and struggle and turn this shit in, see what I get. And I was getting A's for my stupid bullshit. So I was like, I don't need fucking ChatGPT to fuck this up.
I saw a video the other day where this teacher's like, we can tell when you use AI, and they literally like plug a student's paper into a different AI
I
program,
know, no shit, right?
and it's like, we detected AI. I'm like, so we're using AI to tell us whether or not another source is AI or not.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even like a, oh, this matches similar writing styles to how we're coded to write. No, it was, oh, we can tell like if you copy and pasted stuff. And I'm like, motherfucker, when I wrote papers, I would have two Word documents open.
Yeah,
Like I would have my, this is what's actually getting submitted, and then I would have a different page open where I would just kind of like word vomit, and then I
yeah,
would pull from that. And I'm like, so by your methodology, I would be considered as using AI because I just opened two different Word documents.
yeah.
So, but
The way that they're going with this bullshit is that, you know, they're going to have one uh, set of AI that's going to attack the other set of AI, and they're going to have different parameters to where neither is going to match what the fucking professor wants, and then the professor's just going to grade it anyway. And all of this shit is moving too fast, and Skynet is fucking becoming self-aware too quickly.
I I really appreciate. I follow a couple of different like educator accounts on Instagram, so like high school teachers and whatnot. Um, and one of them came up with a really brilliant idea, which is like no shit. Like it seems like something that should have been a thing to begin with, but it wasn't like when I went through high school. But he's like, yeah, I don't even assign papers anymore. Um, I he's like, I tell my students to memorize a speech from a particular unit we're learning
Hmm.
because you can't, AI cannot force you to memorize something that somebody wrote 100 years ago.
Yeah,
And I'm like, that's fucking brilliant.
yeah, yeah. That is good. Well, they're gonna have to figure out something because I'm sure by the time we get to, well, let's see if how much history they're going to allow. It's taking down signs in Philadelphia and shit like that, and putting up signs at Manzanar for people. If you feel bad, make sure you rat out the fucking ranger. That blows my mind. That they're literally putting uh, uh, signs up at a fucking concentration camp to tell you to rat somebody out if they're making you feel uncomfortable about the history that you came there to fucking learn. Why did you come here to a concentration camp in the middle of the goddamn Californian desert?
To be fair, though, I completely agree with you. I went to Santa Fe about 6 months ago. Um,
Like it was
and
a fucking bet.
What's that?
I said, would you lose a fucking bet?
No, so this was when my wife was still very like heavily pregnant,
Mhm.
and living in Colorado, Santa Fe is only like a 5 or 6 hour drive.
Right.
And there's a fancy hippy dippy spa place down there that like specializes in like prenatal massages and stuff. So I was like, surprise.
Yeah, why not?
Also, I have some nerd shit I need to go look at while we're down here. By
Yeah.
the way, we're going to go to the Santa Fe National Cemetery. Hope hope you enjoy. Um, actually, I went specifically to visit one grave, which I will hold off on sharing at this point because I wanted to discuss it with you later because I have a candidate for your podcast to
Okay.
discuss. Um, but out and about, just driving, we decided, oh, let's like stop and have lunch, and we decided to just like picnic at a park, and it's just a standard city park, kids playground, whatever. But we're like, we'll sit on the grass, whatever, enjoy the nice weather.
Mhm.
And I see this fucking rock, maybe like 50 feet away from this just not important. Like, there's nothing special about this park. And I go over to this rock, and it's like, here on this site was a Japanese internment camp held during the 1940s. It has since been destroyed. This memorial stands to remember the people who were here. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm having a goddamn picnic at a children's park, and lo and behold, I'm standing on top of a goddamn internment camp. But
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
sometimes you don't expect what you.
I get it, but Manzanar is different because you got to go out in the middle of fucking nowhere to get to that place, and that's literally one of my colleagues, Mikito, worked. I can't remember if he worked at Manzanar, but he worked near there as well for the Park Service. And when that decree was issued by the regime recently, he was just, especially as a Japanese American, Mickey was just horrified at the fact that they were going to put those signs up out there, and not just small ones. You know what I mean? These are relatively billboard-esque in their size, and they haven't put them up everywhere, but in some capacity they have, not in that scope, but they've put them up, in small fashion, even at Lincoln's home. They've got them inside of the visitor center at Lincoln's home. Basically, the thing says, if somebody makes you feel bad, here's a number you can call and have them
Oh, I
fired.
can't wait for the Lost Causers to be like, actually, this isn't what the Civil War was about.
And they're going to do it too, and they're going to try to get anybody that they feel, looks in their eyes too woke, whatever the fuck that means, uh, too educated. Let's put it that way. Somebody, it's like in the movie The 40-Year-Old Virgin, where Kevin Hart and that one dude are getting into a discussion about car stereos, and he's explaining all the shit, and he goes, I'm going to explain something to you. He goes, I don't understand what you're saying, so I'm going to take it as disrespect. All right. That's the kind of shit that we have to deal with. And it's not, like I said, it's all public historians that you have to essentially read a room. And that's any job. I understand that. But in this case, you've got to be able to look at 15, 20 people and figure out which one of them is going to get butt hurt about you talking about real history. Telling people that Abraham Lincoln he never carried his own county. Lincoln never carried this county in 2 elections. He only carried his hometown by 23 total in 2 elections. You tell people that, and it kind of brings their hero worship down a peg, and they don't like it. I've had people get up and literally walk out of my programs because of it.
Yeah, but also the standard of who could vote back then was very limited, so the numbers are going to be much lower. But you are correct. Like,
Absolutely.
he was not he was not very obviously the favorite.
Oh no! If you leave,
In fact, one might say we had a whole war over the fact he wasn't the favorite.
that's another one of my favorite things to bring home to people is that people will say we need another Lincoln, and I'll say which version, which Lincoln do you want? Do you want the Abraham Lincoln that caused 11 states to leave the Union on pure conjecture of what he might do? Do you want the Abraham Lincoln who called out 75,000 volunteers to violently put down a rebellion? Or do you want the Abraham Lincoln of 1865 or 64 who said, with malice towards none and charity for all? I go, so there's a lot of Lincolns. And some people will stop and think, other people will get pissed off. I've had a guy literally say in the middle of one of my programs, I don't want to listen, I don't want to hear about Abraham Lincoln's politics anymore.
But he was a politician.
Uh-huh. Hold on one second, man. I'll be right back. But that's like I said, that's the kind of conundrum that you fuck with on a daily. There we go. So, like I said, it's a very sticky situation when you have people, and I'm very good at being able to
I
talk my
wish
way
I
out
wish
of.
people would understand nuance.
Most people
Like
do, and that's the other thing.
yes,
Is that
Lincoln, grand sum total, great president. Still had issues. That's like here's the thing. It's a well established fact on this podcast. I'm a fucking George Washington fanboy. I mean, for fuck's sake, I have him tattooed on my goddamn arm.
he's got the
Um,
man's teeth.
yeah, George Washington. If I sat here and said there is absolutely zero issues with George Washington, that there was no moral ambiguity going on, that he was, this like, I cannot tell a lie for chopping down the cherry tree, motherfucker. The dude had issues.
He did start
But
the
you
First
have,
World War in modern history.
there's a lot of context that I can understand that makes it's like, yeah, he did some shitty things, and there are things that by today's standards makes him that would have made him a really terrible human being. But I can appreciate the good aspects of him enough to override those problematic things. Maybe not
Sure.
override is the word I want, but
It's a level of cognitive dissonance that you have to have for certain historical people. I mean, my hero is William Tecumseh Sherman. Sherman has been a hero of mine since I was a little kid. And the
are
moment that
you
I
are you
figured
a
out,
member of r/Sherman posting?
yeah, yes,
I
for years, you know what I mean?
I love those people over there because they're very much the like Sherman can do no wrong, and I'm like, you guys didn't read about what he did to the Indians, did you?
Exactly. And that's what I like to say is that if you love Sherman up until 1866, that's where you should probably draw back just a
If
fucking
you're
bit.
like burn the South to the ground, all right, cool, whatever.
Fucking right
But
on.
uh,
Come.
what if
Yeah.
I told you he felt that way about everybody?
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like I said, every person is a person. They're going to be a human being. And that's the other thing I like to tell people because they will say, we need another Lincoln. We need another Lincoln. And I like to tell people, and sometimes it shocks them, or it at least gets them to think. I'm like, no, we don't. I go, we need another you. We need another person that was like him. We need an extraordinary person for extraordinary times. But Abraham Lincoln was just a man. He knew what he was doing at that time. He did the best he could, and he did what he could to, as he said, assuage the anguish of our national nightmare. And we need people like that now. We don't need for people to look on history as, oh God, we need that again. No, we fucking don't. We don't need another George Washington. We don't need another Abraham Lincoln. We don't need a fucking this or that. We need, a fucking a John, an Adam, a George, a fucking whatever. It just new ideas and new people, just like they were at the time, to bring new fucking ideas to the table. Because if you look at it, they were new ideas from men who had really thought about this for a long time. from Washington to even Jefferson. You know what I mean? Jefferson is extremely fucking problematic. But like you said, if you can separate things and say, holy Christ, what a piece of shit over here. But over here,
Yeah,
you've
it's
got
like,
him cutting the fucking Declaration of Independence.
well, it's like one of the I try and average, because I am a fanboy. I try and average at least like 2 Washington books a year, and the most recent one I read was called "An Imperfect God,"
Mm,
and it examines Washington solely from the lens of a slave owner. Like, it talks about how he ran his plantations, his views on slavery, on race relations, all that stuff. And it also talked about, you know, one of the big arguments of the book was like he was a deeply conflicted man and he really struggled with the idea of how he should go forward with the whole slavery thing, especially when he became president, because he's like, as president, he was setting a precedent for everything he did in that
mhm.
first term. And he's like, is it right for the president of the United States to own people? And I love that for him, that he had that moral internal struggle. It doesn't change the fact that he didn't release his slaves until after his death.
Right.
Like, great. I'm glad that you had that, little philosophical discussion. You still did shitty things. But I can appreciate the fact that you turned down the opportunity to be dictator. So I think
Unlike
I,
some motherfuckers we know.
right?
Um,
So like, slave owner, absolutely abhorrent. Turn down being dictator, holy shit, that's pretty fucking revolutionary. So I'm
right.
willing to wait that just a teeny bit more.
Well, here's another one that is problematic in a lot of ways, but good in many others. General Joe Hooker. Joe Hooker, if you take his performance at Chancellorsville and look at it in a vacuum, he's a fucking asshole. He's one of the dumbest dildos that ever commanded the goddamn Army of the Potomac. But then, if you look at what he did prior to that, and then after that, holy shit, Hooker was a good general. Not only a good general, but he was braver than shit. The guy got wounded at Antietam for going too far forward to place his own men in the best combat position that he could find. Then he does exceptional duty at Missionary Ridge and for the rest of the western part of the war. And then he afterwards doesn't shit talk anybody. He doesn't run anybody into the ground with his letters or anything like that. He serves as the Grand Marshal of Lincoln's uh, funeral procession. So Hooker, like I said, and I love Ken Burns. Don't get me wrong, but because of Ken Burns' Civil War, Hooker has been exceptionally maligned because of the power of moving pictures. You know
Is
what I
that
mean?
more of a Ken Burns issue, or is that more of a fact that he relied on Shelby Foote?
Speaking of fucking problematic, uh, you know,
It's
you
weird that Shelby Foote was buried like 10 feet away from Nathan Bedford Forrest. What?
mhm, yeah, and that's the other thing is that you know when you get to well, so I met Ed Bars, who is also in Ken Burns' Civil War. He's probably the most second known person in that documentary. He's the guy who talks like this, and he was the head historian of the Park Service for like 30 years. He's the one who finds the USS Cairo, right, down in the Yazoo.
Is he
He
also responsible for nearly destroying it?
Yeah, pulling it up. Actually, that wasn't his idea. He was pissed off about it. That you can blame the Army Corps of Engineers for that stupid bullshit when they almost cut the fucker
Typical
in half.
government.
Yeah, that wasn't him. Um, he so I met him on the battlefield at Antietam. Stopped there on the way home from a wedding coming from Baltimore, and literally was standing there looking at the cornfield. And this little man standing next to me goes, "Are you enjoying the battlefield today, big guy?" And I look over and it's fucking Ed Bars. I'm like, I go, "You're Ed Bars," and he goes, "Yes, I am." I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, wow. You know what I mean? You meet your hero, and he was nice. Like, he asked me a couple of questions. Told me to have a good day. Gave me a pat. Like I
Make
was like,
sure
oh,
to no no obligation, but please consider leaving a gratuity.
yeah. I mean, like it was awesome. And then I remember I got back into the car, and the whole way home to Illinois, I was just like, like fuck, I met Ed Bars today. You know what I mean? You know, they always say don't meet your heroes and that kind of shit. And I've had that experience before too. But last week, Lincoln's birthday, right? So the 12th, myself and a couple of my colleagues were in uniform for first person interpretation. So I did a early Illinois soldier that Lincoln would have seen. One of my colleagues was in a Zouave uniform, and another was a surgeon, right? And I was talking to a couple of visitors that came in, and then I look up, and there was another gentleman who came in, an older gentleman, by himself, and where you recognize somebody because you've seen them before, but like you just kind of like, you know what I mean? And you go about what you're doing. The moment that I recognized who it was, I blurted out right in front of these two visitors, "Holy shit!" And I go, "Sorry," and they laughed, and they were like, "No, what's up?" And I go, "That is Alan C. Gelzo or Guelzo." Uh, Probably one of the foremost authorities on Abraham Lincoln in the Battle of Gettysburg. And they were like, "What, really?" I'm like, "Yeah." I go, "He just walked into the old state capitol." And then I was like, "Oh shit, he's giving the talk for the Lincoln birthday banquet tonight, right?" So I had a chance to talk to him. You could literally it was like watching something on PBS but live. You know what I mean? Like the guy
Right.
has a cadence in his speech and shit that is just unreal. Extremely smart. I know, I've read several of his books. The one on Lee is fantastic. It goes into depth about his relationship with slavery, stuff like that. The whole nine. And then I realized I was like, I can't go to that dinner. I was like, that thing's like a fucking $100 a plate. What am I gonna? I'm not gonna do that shit.
And
So
it's
I want to see if he's
chicken.
gonna. Yeah, right. I just wanted to see if he's gonna be around. Maybe he's gonna be out at University of Illinois Springfield giving a chat or whatever in the next couple of days. So I just looked up. Right. I wish I hadn't, because when I looked up that, it came up with his um, I don't know shit. And come to find out, he's a fellow on a conservative think tank that helps drive the Heritage Foundation, which is now driving Project 2025. Um,
Well,
like,
nobody's perfect, so
uh, this shit gets real fucking ugly when you start to dig in. And it's like he's still on the board, and these people give money to fucking people like Laura Loomer and shit. And I was like, this guy is one of the smartest people that I've ever read. I mean, he does research to the end fucking degree. How could you be on a board of something that gives to somebody who is just a verified piece of fucking shit? And I mean, just verified. And
I get that. I also like, you and I align a lot um as far as historiography goes, political spectrum, all that kind of stuff. And the thing that I've noticed, and I'm sure you've noticed it too, is that like every I feel like the history community is a very strong actually kind of crowd. Um you get what
yeah,
I'm saying? Where it's like, no, my interpretation is correct, which it fucking is. Um
right.
but there are times where you hear or you listen to people in the history community. They could do a talk, or they could write a paper or a book or whatever, and you're like, this is really solid work. And then like the second, when it comes to like just telling the story of what happened in that given event, you're like, this is solid work. And the second that they try to apply that to a modern day context, you're like, what in the ever loving fuck are you talking about? And
Yeah,
that's because we all suffer the same bias, which is we fit our knowledge of history into the way that we see the world. And again, my way is correct. So,
and I agree. But then, I read something that he said in 24, where he wrote an op-ed for the fucking Wall Street Journal, where this is just flabbergasting me. He literally compared a certain fucking president that is sitting in the White House to his historical legacy will be compared to people like Truman and Eisenhower and FDR. In what fucking capacity? Because there's a lot of ways you could take that. Uh, I don't see
I
that going that way.
I don't
But
know how anybody can feel that's like. I have ideas and opinions, but like, let's take like George W. Bush for example.
where are we taking him?
I have a strong idea of how history is going to remember him and how his legacy and impact is going to be in the future. I think we're far enough out that we can start making those guesses or assumptions. I still am not 100% sure though. Like,
In comparison, I mean, in comparison to now, we harken back to a fucking kinder era of
well, it's like
2003.
when Bush was in office, people were like, "Oh, he's the fucking antichrist or he's a Nazi," and it's like today he's like, "Oh, he's just some sweet old man that makes paintings," and it's like, "What the
Fucking some
fuck?"
simp.
Like,
Yeah, and like I said, people especially in America have a very fucking short memory of how where we got to now we got to.
I
And
don't know. I just find myself very hesitant, even when I have strong opinions about particular individuals, to be like. I had somebody at work ask me this the other day because he's like, "You're a history nerd. How do you think this person is going to be remembered?" And I'm like, "It is way too early to be making those kinds of guesses and or assertions because they're not done."
yeah, unfortunately, yeah, and it's difficult because we have people that come to the sites that will, I don't know. Like I said, they try to interject modern shit into everything, or they try to pigeonhole certain individuals like Abraham Lincoln into, like you said, into their own worldview and their own biases. You know, Abraham Lincoln was a godly man. Abraham Lincoln was a religious man. Abraham Lincoln was this. He was that. No, he wasn't. He worked on Christmas fucking Day. He dropped his wife and kids off at church on Sunday morning so he didn't have to go and fucking deal with that shit and could go get
Well,
work done.
it's the same thing. It's like, we had discussed this previously, but I'm a Freemason. I respect Lincoln and I like him and I think he was a good president. I also recognize the fact that he would have hated me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I mean, he hated secret societies in every fucking sense. But it's just like the one thing that people also tend to forget, and as somebody who lost their parent at a young age, Abraham Lincoln watched his mom die at the age of fucking 9. Not only watched her die, but had her bring him into the room the day before she dies, explain to him what he needs to do for the rest of his life, and then say, "I'll see you on the other side. Be a good boy." And then fucking dies 16 hours later. I mean, literally. And then his dad, after they put her in the ground, less than an hour later, says, "All right, boy, I'll see you when I see you. Going back to Kentucky to find you a new ma." And then he goes and leaves them alone for 9 fucking months. He leaves them alone for a year almost.
your
I
new
mean, that's
mom's name
going to
is
affect a
Candy and she's
fucking
20
kid.
years younger than your old mom.
Yeah, no shit, right? Like, it's just fucking bonkers. And people always tend to forget that shit. Like, that is very formative on a fucking 9-year-old boy. You know, you lose your mom and then your dad abandons you to the Indiana fucking frontier and you survive it. And then all of a sudden he comes back with a new mom and fucking 3 fucking new brothers and sisters. You're like, what the fuck is going on right now? Like, you know what I mean? This was not this way
I
a
guess
year
I'm just
ago.
going to put myself through law school now, I guess.
Right? No shit. And that's the other thing. People think that Abraham Lincoln sprang from a fucking log cabin in the wilderness to becoming a fucking lawyer and then president. And it's like, no, like he didn't come to Illinois till he was 21. Like, and actually, you pretty much didn't leave your house until you were 23 years old because you were a money making operation. And his dad was pissed off that he was leaving at 21. but
Yeah,
he doesn't
become a
start reading the
vampire
law.
hunter nonetheless. Like, there's no money in that.
No, no. I mean, fuck. His dad wanted him to be a yeoman farmer and a fucking woodworker just like him. You know what I mean? And you'll hear people say, well, Abraham Lincoln hated his father. How the fuck do you know? Were you hanging around? Were you there for the fights? I fucking hated my dad a lot of the time too. But I wish he were
No,
still here.
it was in his corner of the log cabin where he just carved into one of the beams, "F you, Dad."
Yeah, fuck you, Tom. Fuck you, Tom. Yeah, you know what I mean? But people will always, they'll, like my friend Sam Wheeler, Dr. Sam Wheeler, he's a Lincoln scholar, exceptional at what he does. And he gave a very good talk on the relationship between Abraham Lincoln and his father. And basically was like, you know, everybody, if you, a father and a son's relationship is very complicated, as was Abraham Lincoln's and his dad's. He didn't want to do what his dad wanted him to do, and it pissed his dad off. And Abraham Lincoln said, well, you're just going to have to be pissed, like a lot of sons with their fathers. But he loved his dad. I mean, you know, like he said, and I said, there were times where I hated my fucking dad. You know what I mean? I wished him dead. Now, I wish he were here every day. And that's the same thing with Abraham Lincoln, is that we're like, well, he didn't even go to his funeral. He was fucking working. It's not like he could jump in the car and shoot over to fucking Eastern Illinois and go to a funeral.
If you might recall, there wasn't a thing called bereavement leave in the 1860s.
No shit. No shit. Yeah, he had a couple.
You think he took a day off when fucking his kid died during the Civil War? Fuck no.
Absolutely not. Fuck that, dude. Antietam happened right before that, and he didn't take a fucking day off for that bullshit either. He went up there to see it. He took a fucking train up to the goddamn show. But
back on the topic of labor rights.
Back to the labor rights in fucking Eastern Kentucky in the 70s.
Here, if you didn't know this, Abraham Lincoln did not have bereavement leave.
Nope. Goddamn unions.
You know, I made a joke during this movie, and I didn't realize how like actually accurate it was, but I was like, at the scene where we get to the 10-minute montage of violence between, you know, the company and, side tangent before I get back to the violence. Did it strike you as weird that being in a fucking company town, that the Skarsgård character was able to maintain his hotel room? Like, the mining company definitely owned the motel, right? Like, why the fuck would they let him stay there?
I don't think they did, because of course when they get bounced out of the company town, you know, she can't buy anything from the store because that guy cuts her off, and her dad says, go down, you know, to so-and-so's store and he'll give you credit. You know what I mean? Don't worry about it. So I think there are some places in there that are privately owned.
Okay.
You know what I
must
mean?
have missed that. But I was like, how's this motherfucker renting a motel room in the company town? Like,
right. And I mean, you know, that's the other thing, is I don't see him, you know, going down there by himself, and they would have had guys posted up, you know, at his place to protect him and shit like that. They weren't fucking stupid. And in the movie, I understand that's why, you know, it adds to the drama when that dude shows up with a shotgun that, you know, is Basil Collins is who it is. But, you know, he shows up with that shotgun slung across his shoulder and then jumps in his truck and takes off, and, you know, the intimidation and all that other shit. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I know exactly what you mean, but I think that somebody probably privately owned that fucking place, hopefully.
Anyways, I made the joke to my wife during the violence montage, and we see like one person just like lighting a stick of dynamite and then tossing it into a car and the car blowing up. I was like, man, we used to be a proper country where we solved our disputes with fucking sticks of dynamite. Like,
and that's, you know, to talk about the mine wars.
Man, regulations have gone way out of hand. Why the fuck can't I have dynamite?
Just blasting caps laying around and shit.
Yeah.
You know, fucking no big deal. Go down to the True Value, pick yourself up a fucking box of dynamite. I got a tree
used to be able to order Thompson machine gun in the mail.
Yeah, from the Sears catalog. Throw in $1 and we'll throw in a drum.
I've found
The drum
myself
dollar sales at Sears.
I've found myself saying that a lot more recently. Like, we used to be a proper country, and then saying something that's like just really out of pocket. Like,
Yeah, no shit. Back in my day, we could blow a motherfucker up. Nobody think twice.
but it also made me. Oh, this is a fun little bit of Colorado history that I'm going to regale you with, because it's my little it's my autism interest when it comes to Colorado history. Have you ever heard of a thing called the City Hall War?
No.
Have you heard of the Cripple Creek mine strike?
Yes.
Okay, well, you probably recall that the Cripple Creek mine strike, about labor rights in the
Mm.
1890s, and it resulted in the Colorado State Militia, which is now the National Guard,
Guard.
facing off against miners. And instead of it being a traditional gunfight, it was a we're going to throw sticks of dynamite at each other kind
Mhm.
of disagreement, which I always found that to be hilarious. Like,
Well, they
you
had
have two armed forces, and instead of shooting at each other, they're like, "Nah, we're going to baseball huck fucking TNT at each other." But
they did the same thing here. When the mine wars kicked off here, so there were two, like in Harlan County, there were two different versions. So you had the first mine wars that happened in the 1890s, latter part of the 1890s, where you had the Verdun massacre, all that shit. And then you had the 1930s, where you had the split between the UMWA and the PMA, and anyway, they basically started a bombing campaign against one another in the 1930s, blowing up people's cars. There was a car bomb that went off on in Springfield, Washington, and Fifth Street is a very busy intersection, but there used to be a bank right there. They blew the car up because they mistimed it, and they tried to get these guys when they were coming out of the bank, but the car blew up before they got out to it. Blew one of the guys back through the window of the bank. There were other instances where they blew this guy's house up fucking twice. Didn't get him either time. It's like, can't you asshole stake out a crib? Like, just stick around. You know what I mean? Time this asshole like on a Saturday. And they didn't do that. They blew his house up. They blew the first one up, missed him. Second one they blew up, and missed the second time too at a different house. But same thing happened around here. And it's what do they call it? Weapons of opportunity. Especially when you work in a fucking mine. I mean, you're going to have instant access to that shit. And around here, one of the weird things about Springfield or Central Illinois, our coal fields here, they were hand mining in the 30s. They weren't using mechanization because they is essentially the mine workers around here, their contract said that we're the ones that are going to control mechanization, right? So kind of like now with AI, and I guess full disclosure, I am in a union. I'm in AFSCME. And we have put forward language to say that if there's going to be AI implemented for our jobs, as far as public historians, guides, that kind of shit, we are going to be the ones that bring it in. And we are going to be the ones that tell whomever is going to implement that with our contract, that is going to be us who tells you how it's going to work. Because you're not going to replace us with a fucking kiosk where somebody walks up and it only works a third of the goddamn time because, you know, how that shit, you've seen Idiocracy. You
yeah,
know, my big ass fries.
unnazify the world.
You know what I mean? That's exactly the way the fuck we're going. They're going to have a goddamn Hardee's sponsored fucking kiosk at the Lincoln Tomb, and they're going to shit can all of us for that. So we
Yeah,
told
and
the
we all
union,
know that Lincoln would have been a White Castle guy.
fuck. If we had a White Castle around here, don't even get me fucking started. You got to go to St. Louis to get White Castle around this motherfucker, or Chicago. But truly, I mean, it's the same thing now. Those guys in the 30s were fighting back against mechanization because the union said, you're moving too fucking slow. You're not turning a profit for the coal companies, and it's making us look bad because our union is being made to look like shit. So you need to take the contract, be glad you got a fucking job, and shut the fuck up, is what they said. And these guys said, no, we're not doing it. And the same thing now is that we decided to, I guess you would say, I don't know, not jump the gun, but we got ahead of the game to say that we know this is coming and it's going to be us are going to be the ones who control it. And that's the same thing. I mean, that's any union and why it gets started. There's always a reason for it. And not saying AFSCME was started because of fucking AI, but it's there to protect us, hopefully, a little bit from it.
Back to the City Hall War.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this wonderful bit. So it's actually, you can't really talk about the Cripple Creek mine strike without talking about the City Hall War. And I'm going to give you the abbreviated version of it. So the governor at the time was, the fuck was the name of the party at the time? The Progressive Party during the 1890s. Populist.
Okay.
Took me a second. And he was a lame duck governor. He was a one-term governor. Lost his election. He was like, well, fuck, I need to do something that, ensures my legacy around here. So he's like, I'm going to fight corruption because, 1890s corruption, hand in hand.
Mm.
So as governor of Colorado, he's like, I am going to replace the police and fire commissioners for the city of Denver because those guys are corrupt, and I'm going to install my guys who I know aren't corrupt because,
My guys never.
Yeah. Now you might be wondering, why does the governor have the ability to replace city level positions?
Right. Yeah.
Well, the city of Denver at the time had wrote it into their charter that the governor could do that.
Nice fucking loopholes, dipshits.
Didn't think that one through.
Right? Were you on that one, dipshit?
Anyways, the commissioners of the police and fire department for the city of Denver were like, fuck you, we're not giving up our jobs. And then they enlisted a local county sheriff, and they barricaded themselves inside the Denver City Hall.
Fuck.
And it became this big standoff that lasted multiple days. And the county sheriff went to a local mining camp over by kind of like what's called the Auraria. It's a hard word to say. Part of Denver. It's all part of downtown now, but that was kind of like, it was where the confluence of the Cherry Creek meets and the Platte River meets, was kind of where our first like gold findings were. So people who were like new to the area would come and be like, I'm going to get gold from Denver. And it's like, that shit disappeared 20 years ago. Yeah. Anyways, sheriff went down to the mining camp and was like, anybody who wants to join our side, I'll deputize you right now. So you got, not really a strict hiring process back then.
Did they get 47 days of training?
Yeah. So now you have all these fucking people who are barricaded inside the Denver City Halls. The governor's like, well, fuck, this got out of hand. So he calls the state militia in. And there's this great picture of the Colorado State Militia surrounding Denver City Hall. And there are artillery pieces in the streets. And you can go back to Rocky Mountain News, which was the primary paper at the time. And there is like front page. It's like, by order of the governor, like there is a curfew in effect now. Anybody who is in violation of this curfew could find themselves on the wrong end of a fucking cannon.
Fuck.
Yeah. So the people inside City Hall were like, you know what? We will back off and we will give up only if the Colorado Supreme Court tells us that what you're doing, Mr. Governor, is correct. So the Colorado Supreme Court held a special session.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Heard arguments. And they're like, yes, the governor was within his rights because you wrote it into your goddamn charter that he could do this.
Unfucking real.
And then, very anticlimactic, they're like, oh, okay, we give up.
They just rolled the cannons home.
Yeah. Well, couple weeks later, we have the Cripple Creek mine strike. Essentially, everybody who was in the City Hall War, it was very much a like citizens versus the state kind of beef.
Yeah.
And basically, all the people who like were in that mining camp who got deputized to be in the City Hall War just went down to Cripple Creek to side with the miners, and then the state militia went down there to suppress the Cripple Creek mine strike.
This is a carry on from the bullshit.
Yeah, it was just City Hall War part dos.
Right.
So it was one of my favorite things to read about and to research because it is such an absurd story with a very lackluster ending to it. But you're like, what in the fuck did I read? Like,
yeah, that's fucking wild. Well, I mean, the labor unrest of the 1890s is fucking unreal, and most Americans don't have any clue of what occurred in those 10 years. And
like I said, we used to be a proper country that solved its issues with dynamite.
Right? Violence, goddammit. Let's get out the streets, fucking handle this shit. It's like the Godfather. You know, every 10 years or so, you need a fucking war like this. It cleans out the bad blood. But I mean, we got the Haymarket here. You've got the Pullman strike, which turns fucking bloody. And that one's even better because that one, after it turns bloody, the White House and the state of Illinois both launch independent investigations of what occurred, and both come to the same conclusion that it's Pullman's fault, but it's also definitely Robert Lincoln's fucking fault too. And Lincoln,
hasn't he had enough go on in his life that we don't put that on him?
Fuck him. I love when people are like, they find out the Lincoln, the Lincoln line, mail line stops in 1985. And people are like, oh, it's so sad. I'm like, is it? I'm like, Lincoln's firstborn son lived to be almost 83 years old. And to be honest with you, Robert kind of sucked. As they say, sometimes the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, and sometimes it rolls way the fuck away. And that's Robert Lincoln to a absolute fucking T. But, the labor unrest with Gompers and all that shit that happened in Chicago, Altgeld, you have two governors back to back who basically tell the Chicago bosses to eat shit because they've seen the truth about the Haymarket riot, and they're like, yeah, these guys are being pardoned. Like, they might be anarchists, and that's, that sucks, for them and sucks for us, but they didn't do this shit. Like, cops did this. We know they did. And the business bosses and the political bosses in Chicago went after Altgeld, and then Altgeld loses re-election to Tanner, and then Tanner sees the truth. It's almost like when they take you in the White House becoming president, they show you that other angle of the Zapruder film. And they ask you any questions. Any questions about what you've seen? No? Good. But Tanner sees the truth too. And Tanner basically tells Shelby Cohen, who is the political boss in Chicago, this is bullshit. And you guys did Altgeld dirty, and you're going to try and fuck me is what you're going to do. So I'm going to pardon these guys, and I'm the governor. There's nothing really you can do about it. And then to piss him off even more, he sends an all-black regiment to go fight in Cuba, which pisses him off because how dare he? And then he uses the National Guard for what it's actually designed for, which is keeping peace during labor unrest. And he makes sure that if the bosses fuck up and they bring in Pinkertons or Baldwin Felts detective agents, then they use the Guard against them, and they will beat the shit out of these detectives, which they do on several occasions. But Tanner pisses off them through his, I guess you would say, progressive labor practices. You don't have miners dying in that very brief period of time during his 4-year tenure at $1,500 a fucking year. And then they make sure, because of him bucking the bosses, he gets defeated for re-election. He does. And then he basically says, I'm immediately starting my re-election campaign right now. Starts it from the Leland Hotel a block away from the governor's mansion, and 2 months later keels over dead at his breakfast table into his fucking breakfast plate.
I hope to also die during breakfast.
Who did?
I said I also hope to die during breakfast.
I hope to die during a Hunter S. Thompson style breakfast.
Just lots of drugs.
Oh, you should read his. He one day he went through everything that he did, like, and it's wake up. I think he got up at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon usually, but it was like wake up 3 p.m. do cocaine, then drink some Chivas, then smoke a cigarette. After second cigarette, do some more cocaine. After more cocaine, drink some more Chivas. After third glass of Chivas, drop acid. After a few hours of dropping acid, do more cocaine. Then smoke a joint to come down. And then he runs through all the grapefruit, the bacon, the fucking French toast, all the shit that he would have spread out on the goddamn table. So if you've ever seen Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, that's how I want to go out, face down in a goddamn grapefruit.
Speaking of mind-altering substances, what are you drinking this evening?
Very good question. So, first of all, shout out, if you can't see it, to the Civil War Breakfast Club. I know it's backwards, but they're beautiful pint glasses that they've got for their merch. This isn't just, what is it, screen printed on here? That's
Oh, it's like laser.
great. Yeah. Embossed. Is that what you'd say?
Probably.
Yeah, the shit's embossed. So, like I said, shout out to the Civil War Breakfast Club podcast, and I am drinking Founders Breakfast Stout and a little bit of one of the most anti-union fucking beers in America, Yingling.
You know, I have some of that in my fridge right now because I had my dad bring out a case last time he visited because, you know, we don't get that out here.
That's right. We just started getting it here. Just.
I am... Because also, fuck the system. And, you know...
Shit. Sorry. Had a bit of an accident. There we go.
You know, also talking about companies that are famously anti-union, fuck Disney. I'm
right.
You probably heard that last year Disney lost its copyright over Steamboat Willie.
Oh, Steamboat Willie? Toot toot. Really?
That's right. So there's a local brewery here called Four Noses that, in honor of that, came up with a double IPA called Public Domain, and it has
right on.
Just a picture of Mickey Mouse as Steamboat Willie on the.
Oh, that's fucking dope. That's so funny. I can't believe, man, you figured they'd have a team of fucking lawyers out there trying to figure that shit out.
They lost it.
That's wild. And you would think, they've made enough money. It's Disney. They've never made enough goddamn money off of any. I'm surprised they haven't rolled out fucking Walt's corpse, frozen head.
What, you think that joke about Scrooge McDuck having a fucking swimming pool full of gold coins is a joke? No, that was inspired by real life.
No shit. And that's I say that at the Dana Thomas house. Susan Lawrence Dana was a very rich lady who is from right here in Springfield. And she had a vault. She has a vault in her home. And I like to tell people at the end of the tour, because you have to always tell them how, her money went away. And I will say that, that vault, if you look at it this way, it was like Scrooge McDuck's money bin. Like, she's diving through silver coins in that thing. And then one day, it's like that one cartoon where he literally goes to take a dive in and just hits the bottom. That's what happened to her money. And most of the time I get a laugh because most people get that reference. Some people that, these fucking Gen Zers they have no clue. They're like, what? That's my fault. So anyway, there you go.
Oh, I think it's about time we rate this thing. I think it's only apt that we do it on a scale of 1 to 5 kitchen bathtubs. Because we don't have running water, and why not have another excuse to see Ted Levine fucking naked in a movie?
No shit. I laughed. I said the same thing. I was like, I think I've seen this dude naked more than myself.
Would you fuck me? I fuck me.
I'd fuck you real good. Oh, dude, my friends and I, shout out to my boy Jay and Dave. I have been saying that to them since probably fucking junior high because I can do his voice pretty well, and I've never not gotten them to laugh just unfucking controllably because I'll bust that shit out just randomly for no reason.
So yeah, one to five kitchen bathtubs.
Ah, shit, man. I don't know. I'm gonna give it just because I like the subject matter. I really like the effort, even though they could have done a lot more. Ah, shit. I'm gonna give it 2 3/4 fucking kitchen tubs.
I I like this movie. It's very much outside the realm of what we normally do, but I think that's a good thing to kind of challenge our perception of what is and is not a war movie.
Right.
Um, this definitely does push that limit a bit, but I agree with you. It's an interesting subject matter, and it's a very big, even if you've never really heard of it, but mining and labor strikes are a huge part of American history, and there's a lot of conflict that has gone around it, even if it's not very prevalent in this film. So it's not the greatest shot film. It's a made for TV film, so you gotta
It's no Andersonville. It's
yeah,
no
no
TNT's Andersonville.
Andersonville. It's definitely no Hunley, but um,
But I mean TNT in their fucking heyday. That's
yeah, I mean it's hard to compete with Ted
stressful.
Turner. I'll give it a solid 3 bathtubs.
Damn, damn. Giving it the hard 3 bathtubs. Yeah, I agree. Like I said, there was a couple of things in there that like you said with um, Holly Hunt's voice. You know what I mean? Like with
Now that I
you.
mentioned the peanut butter, you're going to think about that the next time you shoot
Oh
your
yeah,
smoke.
100 fucking percent. But it's there's just a few like the camera shot that people will use to either invoke like an 8 millimeter camera or like action that's like it's just it's chaotic. It's
The
like
shaky cam.
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
And they do that a few times, and I hate that shit. I don't know why. It just seems like even in 2000, it just seemed fucking cheesy and cheap. And like the director was just like, I don't
and
give a
like
fuck.
they slow the frame rate down too to
Yes, the only movie where they do that and they do it, I would say perfectly. And if you've never seen the film, I highly recommend it. But a movie called Chopper um, with Eric Bana, and it came out uh, I believe in the year 2000, 2001, maybe. But it's an Australian film about a standover man or a gangster who robbed drug dealers and other criminals, and his name is Mark Brandon Reed. And there is a scene in the film where he goes to a guy's house, and they do lines of speed off the bar, and they speed the frame rate up, and it is unreal the way that it adds to the movie. Do you know what I mean? Like it gives you that brief glimpse into what these guys are seeing. With being on meth, essentially, and they do a really good job of it in this film. When they in other movies when they do what they did, it just bugs the shit out of me, and that's why I can't give it a solid 3 either. And the whole 20-minute violence montage at the end where they could have spread all of that out to tell a better story. I don't know.
yeah.
So,
So Rotten Tomatoes, there is no critic rating because only one critic has rated it. So,
god damn.
but the popcorn meter is 48%.
Ooh, that's a
So
bummer.
hit or miss with the common moviegoer.
It's, and I don't know, like if you've ever seen other films that are around this. So, like another movie that's very good is called Matewan. and it's about the Matewan massacre. And John Sayles is the writer and director of it. So if you've ever seen the movie Eight Men Out, about the Black Sox,
Mm-hmm.
he's the same guy who wrote and directed that movie. Um, but the movie Matewan is awesome in its scope of, what it was about and the violence and everything that occurred. And the guy who it's about was a specific sheriff. I believe his name was Sid Gilman. But he kills Baldwin and Phelps. So both the guys who started the Baldwin Phelps Detective Agency are sent to this mining town to kill him, and he kills both of them. It's a crazy, like, old west style gunfight, and he literally kills 5 or 6 men out in the open. It's awesome. And within a few months, he's got to go to the courthouse in, I believe it was Charleston. And when he goes there, they catch him coming out of the courthouse, and they just machine gun the fuck out of him on the steps. So, the violence that occurred, like I said, it is a war. I mean, there's no doubt of it that these guys were fighting a war. Guys, it wasn't just guys, these women and men and kids. I mean, shit. You look at the Battle of Blair Mountain, they were using planes. I mean, they were doing bombing runs, they were doing everything else. And while this movie is and this strike was a small microcosm of the violence that occurred in West Virginia and Eastern Kentucky, it does a good job, but they could have done better.
As is the case with most things in American history.
Shit. Like I said, next time they turn it over to TNT, we know what they do. We know what kind of magic they make.
Yeah. So yeah, that has been Harlan County War. Adam, thank you so much for joining us. I know when we've talked recently that you've got quite a few things coming up. If you'd like to tell the folks who are listening what they can expect from your side of the world, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, man. So here in the next week, we're going to have actually one long episode, one short episode. So over the next actually 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to have an episode coming out a week. So not too bad for us only releasing
I don't know what I'm
4.
going to do with myself.
When one of my colleagues said, "You guys only did 4 episodes last year," I was like, "Oh shit." Oh man,
we've been really struggling over here too, ever since the kid that just the scheduling and whatnot. It's like, fuck, if I can just get a couple out, that'd be great.
Yeah. Same exact thing over here. And it's my sons are now, my youngest just had his birthday yesterday, or day before yesterday, pardon me. And today was my 5th wedding anniversary, so shout out.
Congratulations. And you chose to spend the evening with me.
Right on, man. But like I said, it's just a matter of getting everything together. But I'm doing lots of stuff for work, so I'm actually with Paul doing a program here about our mine wars and everything with the weapons, and we're going to be able to tie them to the actual guys that were involved with them, get their oral histories, which we found at the collection at University of Illinois Springfield. So if any of you guys out there are ever interested in finding out more about the Central Illinois Mine Wars, which can lead you probably into the direction of, conflict and labor unrest in your areas, check it out, because it's some really cool stuff. But yeah, we're going to have a few episodes coming out here in the next few weeks, and more to come after that. And keep listening to us. And of course, these fucking degenerates over here at the Armchair Commanders. Degenerates,
Yeah.
all of you.
We're still looking for that sponsorship, so.
Hey, aren't we fucking all? You know what? I thought about that one day. If anybody ever came to us and were like, it was let's say like Halliburton came to you, they were like, "Oh man, love the fucking show. Don't know if you know what we do or not, but
you sound familiar."
Yeah, we're willing to cut you a check if you just give us 15 seconds
friends with
the end of an
Raytheon?
episode. That's about it.
Uh,
Yeah, fuck yeah, man.
um, again, Adam, it's been great having you as always. Can't wait to team up again. Hopefully, I know we've been discussing it. I can make my way over to your show at some point. If not, maybe fingers crossed we can have the Abraham Lincoln guy do. I don't know, maybe the film Lincoln with us at some point.
It's got a few words. Yeah, sure.
I don't know if you can work that into your schedule,
Yeah,
but
no shit, right? All my fucking awesomeness. Yeah.
you're like, hey, you want to record something? I'm like, fuck yeah. Hey, let's do this Mind Strike movie from the 70s. I'm like, what?
Yeah, god damn it.
Like, he's just trying to make me mad now.
Right? No shit. Fucking dick. Yeah. No,
All
and
right.
honestly, if you want to set that one up here in the next few weeks, I've got more time now because we've got stuff kind of settled out with George and everything that's going on with him, being little and being able to take a little bit more care of himself. So, yeah, man, if you want to schedule it out here in the next couple weeks, let me know.
That sounds great. Uh, if you want additional content from us, you can find us on all the social medias Instagram, YouTube, all those good places. I highly recommend following the Civil Weird podcast over on Instagram. Give their show a listen. Until next time, I've been John. Adam, thank you again so much.
Thanks, man.
Goodbye.